The situation was dire for the Saiyans from outer space. Vegeta had been utterly dominated by the likes of Jocha, the one whom he had thought he had the measure of for the longest time, his chosen mate. Now she had become the superior force, not just by a little, but by a lot. He was left staring into her eyes for what felt like millennia. It's then he thought to himself, you know what? For a moment, he did find her attractive. A strong woman to possibly sire his children someday. He also pitied her in a way. She had a rough time of it over the years. She wasn't originally cut out to be a warrior. She was far too emotional and longing to be sent back to her family. She had the power of an elite, but the mindset of a weakling, just like her brother. Yes, of course, she had no idea. From Jocha's point of view, Vegeta looked defeated. He had basically fallen silent and was not spouting off some nonsense about being stronger or Saiyan pride or anything about that sort of thing. He wasn't even making any offhand patronizing remarks towards her. Instead, he started to laugh. The laugh then became a guffaw. It was as if the prince was mocking her without saying a word. Somehow. This was now starting to get on her nerves, as the rest of the group from Earth were left befuddled by the situation. Tenshinhan felt safe enough to make an observation. So, is this over? Goku was too focused on the matter to respond immediately, but he had heard, and perhaps, maybe he was right. Maybe Jocha had utterly broken his spirit. Maybe that might get him to go away and leave us alone. She doesn't have to kill anyone. Good. Piccolo, though, wasn't so convinced. Goku, it's never as simple as that. Sure enough, the prince's hysterics grew louder still. Jocha had had enough of this and kicked Vegeta in the jaw so hard that it sent him flying out of the crater and 50 feet into the air. But he didn't care. He had something that might turn things around in his favor. He knew something she didn't know. He didn't have to break her bones to break her. No. Jocha walked over to Vegeta, now laying on the dust bowl of the planetoid, and glowered at him. Don't you dare mock me! I have just had about enough of your pathetic excuses of one-upmanship. Give me one good reason why I don't kill you right now! Vegeta opened one eye and stared into the back of her head. Did anyone ever tell you why you were selected for elite training? He said with a degree of satisfaction through the pain. Nappa could hear this on his scouter, and his eyes widened. Vegeta, don't do it, he muttered to himself. What does it even matter? Hissed Jocha. That is in the past. I can't go back and change it. Vegeta chuckled. That may be, but with this, I can possibly change your future. Shut up! She kicked dust in his eyes out of frustration, desperate to get this all over with. But something was stopping her from doing so. The prince could sense this. That's a lie. You're desperate to know. You forget. I know you, woman. I have known you since you were a squealing little coward, whom father deemed a perplexing puzzle. Fascinated by how one could be so strong and yet so weak at the same time. Father wouldn't have selected you normally, but he had outside help. What? She said confusedly. Outside help? What? The king would never accept help from... Oh, but he would in this case. From somebody closer to home than you might realize. Tell me, were you close to your brother? I forget his name. He hadn't forgotten his name. He knew full well his name was Raditz. He's messing with her. Raditz? Of course. He was my big brother. He was there when I was abducted by that stupid moron Onio. He tried to fight. He tried to save me. And I never got to fight alongside him or even watch him become a Saiyan elite someday. I never got to see him grow up. Like that would ever happen, muttered the prince. What's your point? She screamed. My point is that you shouldn't hold your brother in such high regard. Did you ever think he was the jealous type? Jocha halted. She wanted to keep hitting the prince for talking too much, but what he just said was enough to make her think. Now that she had done so, yeah, in fact, he kind of was the jealous type. He had many tantrums and often picked arguments with her when it came to spending time with her father. The rose-tinted view of her brother was starting to slip. Victory, sensed the prince. I thought so, he replied. Well, the fact of the matter is, he was the one to grass you into the elites. Immediately, Jocha stood stock still, her face frozen in horror. Raditz? No, he couldn't have. Piccolo, what's going on? Said Goku with concern from a distance. Turns out your brother was the one who had Jocha sent off to Saiyan boot camp. What? Goku was just as shocked as his sister over there. It was as if they both shared the same emotion, despite seeing the revelation from different perspectives. Nappa, though, was disgusted at what he had heard. He shook his head and felt for Jocha at that point. Sure, she had been a great asset to the elite squad, but the manner in which she had been recruited was something that he couldn't quite see eye to eye with the prince. No, it was far more simple. He had been born into that world and had rarely thought about the recruits that were not so, that they were drafted in, more often than not against their will. Jocha, though, he had a connection with her too. He clenched his fist, not sure what to do. You're lying. You're lying! That's what you always do! You lie to get what you want! This is no different! Vegeta chuckled. What's the point in lying when I'm looking death in the face? It's time you eschew that luster you had for your brother and accept the truth. He wanted you gone so he could be the favorite child once more. He hated your mere existence. Jocha was trying her best to remain calm, but it was a very challenging feat. She desperately wanted to reduce the prince's face to dust. That's what he wanted. He wanted her to lose it, gain the upper hand in some way. If he couldn't win on the battlefield, he would make sure that he would win the battlefield of the mind. No, she can't let him do it. But this was too much. She could have had a more peaceful life with her family for at least a little bit before the planet exploded by that asteroid. But even then, those few years with her parents, that would have been bliss. But instead, she spent 20 years of her life being a grunt for a force that everybody feared and despised. She hated being loathed, she really did. She always had. Tears were starting to roll down her face. The battle for mental composure was being lost. Vegeta got up as Jocha was fighting her very soul and was ready to charge a ki blast directly in her sorry face. Don't worry, I can send you to him so you can tear what's left of his soul to shreds. Jocha was too wrapped up in her thoughts to hear. Goku was desperate to stop the prince, but Tenshinhan held him back. Goku, don't! You'll only get yourself killed! You know that. I do, but I can't stand around here and do nothing! Tenshinhan sighed. You're gonna have to for once. Vegeta was ready to do the deed. 1 point blank ki blast in the face, with all of his remaining power, no matter how strong she would be, that would be enough to do it. And then he can set about picking off those other weaklings without her getting in the way. With Nappa's help, they would be like lambs to the slaughter. Speaking of Nappa, Vegeta's head suddenly moved. That was odd. Ki blasts don't require your head to move usually. Then his body moved. Then the pain started. And then Vegeta found himself on the floor, some feet away, the energy having dissipated. He turned around to see Nappa, sans scouter, glaring back at him. Nappa, wait your turn! You can kill these fools, but this one's mine. His minion scowled. That's enough, Vegeta! That was a low blow. You didn't have to tell her that. What purpose did it serve? Only to stroke your ego and save your hide. You knew the battle was lost, and yet you disgrace yourself anyway. Vegeta was stunned. Where did this defiance come from? I'm sorry you had to find out this way. He placed a hand on her shoulder, Nappa, but she swatted it away. Did you know too? Did you both keep this from me? Nappa sighed. I've forgotten, kid. You see, you fit so well into our fold that I completely accepted that you're a natural-born elite. I know we may have had our differences, but I always saw you as the better warrior. More noble, more like a Saiyan. I allowed Vegeta to let me lose sight of our legacy when our home was destroyed. Jocha wasn't buying this. You're only saying this to save your worthless life. You don't care about me. Well, that's half right, kid. I don't want to die, but you really got guts. In that moment, Jocha was able to recompose herself enough to look at the prince, now that the tears had subsided. He was thoroughly bemused with the situation. Nappa, get out of the way. This has nothing to do with you. That's an order! Nappa stood in front of Jocha. Yeah, about that. With a sudden finger beam, he aimed it at Vegeta's scouter, and it exploded into pieces. I saw something when you were fighting. Jocha's power level. She could have ended it whenever she wanted the battle. She's stronger than you now. Deal with it! What? Impossible. How could this be? Her power level is meant to be 10,000! Vegeta was getting angry again. It was! But it's obvious that she's been training, ready for the day that she was gonna kick your ass! You've been asking for it for years, not gonna lie. So consider this my resignation in being your patsy, and your chance to be free. What are you dribbling on about? Snarled Vegeta. Jocha pointed to her ear. Your scouter. It's been destroyed. As far as the Freezer Force are concerned, we just killed each other or something. Probably thinking us stupid monkeys were bickering over something stupid. You're free, Prince. You serve no one, but you also rule over no one. Get out of here. Run. Run far away and never return to this part of space again. Or else I will kill you. Savor this mercy. Something you never offered. Vegeta got up, realizing that maybe he was weaker in this situation. He dusted himself off, but not before lunging forward one more time for one last desperate swing, but she easily kicked him back down. Last warning, Prince! Get out of here! She snarled. Vegeta got up again and looked at Jocha one last time, hissed, and turned away. Nappa, we're going. Why should I? What? Nappa stood along Jocha. Didn't you hear? You're no longer the strongest Saiyan. Why should I bow to you anymore? Jocha was surprised at this. Nappa had been loyal to Vegeta to a fault, for as long as he was born. Why are you doing this, Nappa? What does this serve you? I serve you, Jocha. I'm sorry for standing by all these years and letting him treat you like scum. On reflection, I kind of relate. Jocha didn't respond other than nodding slightly. Vegeta was left a broken man, but alive. To hell with the both of you. That's all he had to say, not looking back once as he skulked back to his pod and flew away into the depths of space. Where he went, nobody had the faintest. After a few moments, the Earth contingent felt it safe enough to approach Jocha and Nappa. So, what now? Said Tenshinhan. Is it really over? He then stared at Nappa, who stared back at him. They were eyeing each other up. Yeah, he won't be coming back. His pride is considerably damaged, and he realized what we said was right. He's free. He's not going to disregard that truth, said Nappa matter-of-factly. The group were left processing this information, and Piccolo broke the silence. How do we know that we can trust you, Saiyan? You don't know, Namekian. You're just gonna have to find out the hard way. I ain't gonna do something stupid and end my life before it should. I kinda wanna see out my days as an old man. Jocha's here more likely to aid me in that goal. Jocha stared at Nappa. What makes you think I'll accept your company? You were just as bad as him in not saying anything. You were complicit in all of it. She was trying her best to remain calm, but her entire world had been sent crashing to the floor. I don't expect anything. I hope in time you'll accept my apology, but until then, I'll chill out on my own. Goku chimed in. Chilling out by killing people? Kakarot, right? Save it with a hero spiel. I ain't gonna kill anyone. I'm over all that. I'm an old geezer compared to the likes of you. I want to relax for a moment. But... The group tensed up. Ah! Got ya! Nobody laughed though. Goku walked over to Jocha and gave her a hug. Hey, you alright, sis? Jocha gazed into her brother's eyes and somberly nodded. She had been thinking, while Nappa was droning on and on and on, pleading his case that he wasn't going to kill anyone on Earth. Should that be where he wanted to end up? Goku, Raditz may have failed me as a big brother, but I want you to know I will never, ever fail you. Goku smiled. I know. They heartily embraced, and a wall shattered. Jocha wept like she had never wept before. And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now.